Hello everyone, I'd like to share with you an excerpt from Michael Trout's piece, Multiple Transitions, A Young Child's Point of View on Foster Care and Adoption. I want to talk to you big people about what it feels like getting ready to be adopted when you were a little kid who has already had about 100 mothers, when you can barely remember what your first mother smelled like, when everyone spoke a different language in the place where you were born than in the place you are now. When some of the people who took care of you were called foster parents, and you didn't know what that meant except something that they weren't going to stick around. When in the process of being moved all over the place, you lost some of your brothers and your sisters, and a particular pair of shoes that felt just right, and your absolutely most favorite cuddly, and a certain place on the inside of your last crib where you used to scratch with your fingernail to help yourself go to sleep. Kids like me, see, don't have families of their own because there's something wrong with us, I guess, or because there aren't enough to go around or something. And I probably won't get one either. Or if I do, will it be too late for me to believe that they love me and are going to stay with me? So I want to talk to you big people about these things. Even though I'm not sure you're real interested. Are you the same big people who keep doing things to me in the first place? Please don't get offended if I talk to all of you at once. Caseworkers, foster parents, judges, adoptive parents. I just need to say how it feels to me, and sometimes I can't get the cast of characters straight. Some people say that my first parents shook me until my eyeballs got loosened up, or they left me alone, or they gave me away, or they just ran away. I guess you think because of that I'm supposed to not miss them. Because if I did, it would sure make me lots more cooperative with all the plans that you keep making for me. Should I just say they did the best that they could, so I'm not so ticked off and lonely and worried all the time about what the big people are going to do next? The truth is, I can't do any of these things. I can't forget. Even when my brain does, my body won't. I can't stop myself from yearning, even though later I will get quite good at playing games about this. I'm not saying I was some cherished treasure or anything in my family. But what were you thinking when you sent big men in uniforms to grab me out of my screaming father's arms at 11 o'clock at night, scaring me to death? Or when you sent me to a foster home without telling them about the special ways I needed to be handled because I never stayed anywhere long enough to get attached to anybody. Or when you took me from those people who were so disappointed in me after a few weeks that they said I would have to be disrupted, whatever that means. So you sent me to a family with an older foster child who was mean to little kids because they were weak and small. And so he punched me a lot in secret. And he pulled real hard on my penis in the middle of the night. And when that family got rid of me, and the next, did you think I was going to take it all lying down? Did you think I was supposed to just be sweet and adorable and ready to connect to yet another family who are going to throw me away? Could you have done that? After a while, I had just lost too many people that I might have cared about. I had been with too many parents who really weren't because they couldn't hold me tightly in their hearts at all. None of you got how I was being changed by all these losses, in my heart and in my behavior. After a while, I began to get some pretty bad ideas about how things work. And mostly those ideas said that I was, by that time, in deep doo-doo. I wasn't going to let anybody like me, not even me. And so now, I won't let you imagine even for a minute that I like you, that I need you desperately, that I might ever grow to trust you. I am not, after all, a complete moron. Are you ready to have me not believe you? Are you ready for me to fight your control? Are you ready to hold me and then hold me some more when all the time I act like I don't want you at all? Are you ready to really stay with me through a battle that might last almost my whole growing up? Are you willing to feel as powerless as I do? So I only shared a piece of this excerpt from Michael Trout, of which is very powerful in helping us understand what it's like and get a small glimpse of the experience of these children in being taken away from their home of origin. I've been working in the mental health field for about 12 years now, and for the past 4 years I've been working more closely with the foster care population. And this time I have grown to love the children and have felt a great honor in working with these families and children, and have felt that there have been some amazing things that have happened, but also some disturbing things that have drawn me to want to advocate more for the foster care population. Foster care has been in place since biblical times, in which dependent children who had no one to care for them were often boarded with worthy widows. In 1853, Charles Loring Brace, a minister and director of the New York Children's Aid Society, began the free foster home movement. He was concerned about the large number of immigrant children sleeping in the streets of New York City. As the need for foster homes continued, in 1865, sectarian social agencies began to pay families to care for dependent children. Over time, foster care has developed to not just attend to those homeless and abandoned children, but also those experiencing abuse in their homes. The most common reasons children are placed in foster care nowadays in the United States is for maltreatment and/or an unfit home environment. The most recent statistics available on foster care in the District of Columbia are from 2011. According to the 2011 Census Bureau, there were 2,529 children in foster care in D.C. The different types and percentages of maltreatment recorded in 2011 are as follows. Neglect, 59.5%. Other, 36.1%. This could include a family who has an unstable home environment, or the parent has a serious mental illness and aren't able to care for them at that time. Physical abuse, 18%. Medical neglect, 5.1%. Sexual abuse, 1.9%. Emotional abuse, 1.3%. The idea of foster care is to provide a temporary home environment that is safe. The goal is to reunify the child with the original caregiver, usually the biological parents, if they are able to make changes to have a safe home environment for the child. They are usually given a year to make these changes. When children are removed from their home, they are told that their home was unsafe and their caregiver or parents need to make changes to make the home safe for them. If that happens, they will be returned home. Even though the removal of these children is supposed to be for their well-being, it is often not perceived that way in their eyes. It is a traumatic experience for children to be removed from the only thing that they know as home. You may think, "Oh, poor child, let me rescue this victim of abuse." But most children never really want to leave their home of origin, even though things may be really bad. Just like most kids who come from a two-parent home and hear their parents are getting divorced. A child will not say, "Oh, my parents fought all the time, it's better they're separated anyways." Once a child is placed into care, the parents lose most of their legal rights for the child. The primary people responsible for a child in care are the social worker and guardian ad litem, the child's lawyer. They are responsible for ensuring that they are put in an appropriate placement or foster care home and obtain medical and mental health services as needed. Family planning meetings are held to explore whether there are other extended family members able to care for a child as an alternative to them remaining in the state's care. The child's needs are discussed, and what needs to happen to make the home a safe environment. These plans are presented to the judge. The judge may or may not accept the plan, depending on the circumstances. But most of the time, judges work with the team to ensure it is in the best interests of the child. If the parent complies with all the court orders and recommendations formed by Child Protective Services, the child will likely be reunified with their original caregivers. Although the idea seems simple, there are multiple obstacles to overcome in order for a child to return to their original caregivers. Some parents do not follow through with a plan in the given time frame. I want you all to think of the first time you spent a night away when you were a child for one reason or another. Try to take your memories to that place and time. Maybe after a few moments of bliss in exploring the new environment and having fun with your peers, can you remember how much you miss what was familiar to you? The way your mother hugged and held you, or the special way your dad read you bedtime stories? These children are often emotionally attached to their family and have memories and perceptions in their mind of how their parents or caregivers showed them love. Although a child often desires to be returned to their family of origin, those who remain in care past the year time frame may feel disillusioned, abandoned, unloved, and lose hope in their parents or previous caregivers. The emotional distress these children experience often results havoc behaviors in the foster homes. Being a foster parent is an incredibly difficult job. I praise and admire those who do it well. 49.7% of the DC Care children were reunified with their original caregivers in 2011. Which means over 1,000 children remained in care for over a year. When this happens, other permanency plans are put into place, such as adoption or guardianship. While all these changes are occurring, the children have little control of what happens to them. In the best case situations, the judge, social worker, and lawyer listen to the child's opinion. Children often become angry and escalate in acting out behaviors. I've had children known to be docile and shy prior to being in foster care. Over time, they have developed to be aggressive, oppositional, and destructive. It is common that as time pervades, their anxieties, anger, and sadness increase. During the time I have been working with the foster care population, I have developed my own categories of the different types of foster parents. First, the charity foster parents. So I consider these the people who, they have good intentions. They want to say, I want to help these poor victims and give them everything that their parents weren't giving them, and I want them to become this wonderful person, and I'm going to make everything better for them. But they come to the rude awakenings that unfortunately this kid, even though their home might be nicer, they might have more of the material things, again, it's not their own family, and it's an innate feeling to just want to be with your own. And so when they don't see maybe the gratitude from these children of what they're doing for them, when they're bending over backwards and they don't feel the kids appreciate it, then that's when we see a disruption, or they're just not able to manage these behaviors that they're exhibiting. Then I have the other kinds that I call do it for the revenue foster parents, where they'll have multiple foster care kids, and it just seems like they're doing it more as a source of income instead of wanting to help these children. For example, there have been cases where a family might be sitting in there eating steaks while the foster care children are sitting at another table apart from the bio family, and they say, sorry, the state doesn't pay enough for you to eat what we're eating. Or there might not be any pictures to put them up on the wall when all the biological family members, there's nice, pretty pictures of them around the home. And then there are the superstar foster parents. I think these people are amazing. They understand what they're getting themselves into. they try to work with the biological family, and I feel like when people align with the biological family, they make it so much easier for the children, because the children feel like, oh, they're talking to my parents. Oh, maybe it is okay for me to like them. Because a lot of kids feel like it's betraying their family when they're trying to form new relationships with the foster family, and helping them understand that they can love two people, and that's okay, two mothers or two fathers, and it doesn't mean they're betraying them. And these foster parents who are just able to understand that when these kids are mean and saying, I hate you, that's not necessarily what they mean. It's just that they are so angry. And so those who can just hold them and have a very strong ego and can be that solid ground for these children and teach them what a healthy relationship is. So out of the 2,529 children in DC care, when I was working in the system, the foster care system, or with the foster care population, I work with about 40 of them as the role of a mental health therapist. And I'd like to share a poem with you on my experiences, impressions, perceptions, and relationship with these beautiful children. Since conception, I felt deception on what love means. Was I conceived based on your need to feel loved? Was my creation intended? Was I the biggest fear that fell upon you? 9 months I spent attached to you, embraced in warmth of blood and water. In the depths of your womb I grew, nurtured me without thought. Blood, breath, and life running through me. I missed this 9 months. Fed and protected in that circle, that connecting cord. Let out, not knowing what to expect. Cut. In torment, I screamed. I had the expectation that just as my parents had the capacity to create me, they would be able to care for me. I wanted to be loved by those who made me. Though my desire was to be cared for, I was taken to rude awakenings. Penetration, gentle caresses, feelings of love, delightful implodes planted that seed of life. Do you know the responsibility you forsook? Not thinking of what could happen. I wish I could hold you blameless, left with the consequences of the act. The flesh and blood of my own runs through me, bonded to them without choice or care. 2 lives created me, wishing that the bond that brought us together would keep us together. But the world is cruel. The ideal love is tainted by the foes of the flesh. The heartbeat that I heard for 9 months is a fact, but the internal soul love is unheard, unseen, or felt. I aimlessly wander the system's care, wishing the ideal could be real, this broken bond healed. So this image here is created based on the idea for the poem. Obviously it's a head and detached kind of inside the womb and grieving the loss of that safe circle. This next image, I want to explain these heart drawings that I've done as a representation of attachment issues that children often develop in foster care. So this first image that I have, it looks like a brain, and then it's also kind of isolated. There's no ventricles coming out. So this is an example of a child who intellectualizes things, probably didn't really have a strong attachment to their original caregivers, and even less with the foster parents in which they're placed. The second image is a little bit of a healthier heart. It's warmer, the background is yellow, and then you see the ventricles that are extending out, and this is to represent that maybe they had a pretty fair attachment to their original caregivers, and that they're also trying to form a relationship with the foster parents. And like I was sharing if foster parents align with a bio family that has a tendency to help with that, if of course allowed. It depends on the case. If there's severe abuse or situations, that might not be the case, but this was to show that a child who's developing healthy relationships, but it is strained, it's not perfect. And then this last image is an image of someone who I feel has unhealthy attachments, maybe reactive attachments where they go up to strangers and have really poor boundaries and hug on strangers and like, oh, I love you so much. But then when they're with their own family or the foster parents have a very difficult time attaching. There are some children who have experienced so much abuse that the only time that they had their parents' attention was when their parents were screaming and yelling at them, so they identify that as, that's when my mom loves me, or my dad, or the only time that their parent touched them was when they were beating them when they were doing something wrong. So you can see how some kids have these misperceptions and skewed views of what love is. And then when they're going into these foster homes, they just exacerbate on these unhealthy attachments and behaviors to reinforce skewed thinking. So they might do something to irritate the foster parent so bad so that they'll yell at them, because then they're like, oh, they love me. Or get them so upset that they start to kind of want to hit them like their parents might have wanted to. So this is the heart that I say is driven by passion and rage. So sharing these, I just want to help people have an understanding of the challenge of foster care, though it is wanting to give them a better and safer home. Though that sometimes happens, and I have had cases where they have been successful in being reunified with their parents, and their parents changed their ways, or where that wasn't a possibility and the foster parents might have adopted the child, and that it was, you saw the change in the child where they were just very withdrawn or very angry and become into a healthy, happy child and learn to have healthy relationships. There is hope. As I prepared this presentation, it was emotionally draining. I love these children and families greatly. I hear their cries in my heart and mind. My goal is to let these children's voices be heard, to empower them, and better the system. There has been great progress made, but there is much more to do. I recognize that the content of this presentation may be emotionally disturbing. When working with these children, I emphasize the importance of self-expression, getting rid of yucky feelings, and learning to do good again, changing negative beliefs to positive cognitions. I want to end with the phrase, I am lovable, in the spirit of the foster care children who often feel unloved. I want them to know that they are very lovable, and it is our responsibility to improve our care for them.